Morning, everybody, and welcome. We will let everybody go ahead and get into the webinar, and we'll start here in just a few minutes. Again, good morning, everyone. For those of you still logging in, we're going to give everybody a couple of seconds here to get into the webinar, and then we will get started. Again, we're letting people get logged into the webinar, and we will start here in just a couple of seconds. Okay, we are at 10:02, so we will go ahead and get started with our webinar this morning. First of all, once again, good morning, and thank you for joining us today, everybody. We are glad that you could spend some time with us this morning, and we're offering this training series this week as just kind of a refresher course for several agencies within the state of Texas. Perhaps you've recently seen this material in one of the CPA trainings that you might have attended recently. This may be a refresher course for some of you, just an overview of DIR's products and services that are available to you, our customers that are state agencies. And we know that attrition happens in agencies. People leave, they go to new jobs, people start at your agencies. And so hopefully this information will be an introduction to those folks who may be doing IT procurements for your agencies. So again, thank you for joining us. Couple of housekeeping items. Please open your Q&A box and put your questions in the questions and answer panel. Don't put your questions in the chat because sometimes those can get lost in there. But we do have the Q&A box open, and feel free to ask as we go along today. Perhaps your agency had requested some additional training on our products and services. So this is your time to ask questions to us today, and hopefully we'll get those answered for you today as well. So we're going to spend some time covering DIR's products and services through the first part of our session this morning. We'll cover our contract offerings. We'll talk about some of our other programs that are available to you, our state agencies. And again, feel free to ask your questions along the way. Your presenters this morning, Lynn Hoddy unfortunately will not be able to join us this morning. She is our Director of Hub Outreach and Training here at DIR. My name is Tom Hay. I am part of the Hub Outreach and Training team. I've been with DIR for 10 years now, and I've worked in our cooperative contracts and our shared technology services contracts. And also presenting today will be Mary Vickery. Mary has 20 plus years with the state of Texas with DIR and also the Department of Criminal Justice, and is our customer procurement manager and is very knowledgeable in the procurement processes. So she will be presenting with us today as well. We'll cover some statutes for procurement methods. We will talk about our shared technology services. We'll cover our cooperative contracts processes. We'll cover purchasing IT products and services and how you can go about doing that for your agencies. We'll also talk about purchasing thresholds for IT products and services. Mary will cover statements of work and the exemption process. We'll talk about cybersecurity training requirements, also determining the appropriate method for IT procurements for your agency. Then, of course, we'll leave you with some resources, and again, Q&A as you deem fit today. So put those in the Q&A box for us. So let's get started, and we'll cover some quick statutes for procurement methods. First of all, we are a state agency, and we were created in 1989, and our main purpose is to serve as the Chief Information Office for the state of Texas. Couple of government codes that apply specifically to IT procurements is the Government Code 2157.068 does require state agencies to purchase hardware, software, and technology services through DIR's cooperative contracts. And also included in that Government Code 2157.068 kind of defines what IT procurements mean to state agencies. So it's hardware, software, and technology services that are defined as commercial software, hardware, or technology services other than telecom, for which DIR determines that a reasonable demand exists in 2 or more customers. And that wording just recently changed at the end of the last session through Senate Bill 538. It used to be 2 or more state agencies, but now we can determine what the needs are for 2 or more eligible customers. So expanded it from state agencies to include local governments or school districts or institutions of higher ed or other eligible DIR customers. And that includes things like seat management, or it's commonly known as end user IT outsourcing, where you as an agency would bring a vendor in to handle your computer system for, say, a period of 3 years. And in that 3-year term, the vendor provides all the hardware, software, and supporting services through the term of your agreement. And at the end of that agreement, the equipment then goes back to the vendor. You would start over with a new agreement. And then it's Government Code Chapter 2170 that requires state agencies to procure telecom services through DIR, because we are the state agency that's responsible for obtaining telecommunications services for the state and making those available to all of our eligible customers. A couple of things to remember and know about the IT procurement method is that it's the RFO method that is used to obtain AIS, or automated information systems, and information technology services. All of our DIR contracts are awarded in accordance with statute as set forth by the legislature, so we do follow the competitive bid process. And our cooperative contracts allow you, our customers, to order directly with our DIR vendors by issuing your PO directly to that vendor and making sure that that vendor's DIR contract number is referenced on your purchase order. And you can get more information from the State Procurement and Contract Management Guide that provides more definitions on selecting procurement methods as mandated by the legislature. So this kind of gives you a general overview of several of the main areas. There are really kind of 4 main areas that DIR focuses on. Well, I'll start in the upper right-hand corner with our cooperative contracts. This is where you, our customers, can go order directly through our contracted vendors, and you can buy your things like hardware and software. It includes our DBITs, or deliverables-based IT services contracts. It includes staffing services contracts. And then it also gives us the authority from time to time to issue and implement bulk purchasing initiatives, which offer yet deeper discounts on certain items. It's kind of what we call our Kmart blue light specials, because these only last for a certain period of time. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about our bulk purchasing initiatives here shortly. Also, communications is a big area for DIR. That includes our responsibility for managing the Capitol Complex telephone system. You work in an agency near the Capitol typically. Also providing internet and network services for the state of Texas and making those available for our eligible customers. And then of course, security operations in the IT world is very important, and one of our big areas that DIR is responsible for as well, in keeping the state secure. Shared technology services, kind of on the opposite side of co-op, where you do it yourself through our contracts. Through shared technology services, through an agreement with DIR, we do it for you. So we've negotiated master contracts for services and put those in place for things like our data center services offerings. It includes the texas.gov portal. That is a product of DIR. It also includes the open data portal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. And then also we provide security services to our customers through our shared technology services offerings as well. So co-op, you do it yourself. Shared technology services, we do it for you. And then policy and planning, also a big area for DIR. That includes doing that strategic planning for the state. What is that for the next year? And then what is it for the 3-year, 5-year marks down the road, doing that more long-term strategic plan. It also includes providing IT standards for the state of Texas, as well as being a resource to all of our eligible customers to help them set IT standards for their entities as well. And then, of course, reporting on the state of technology is real big with DIR as well, making sure that the legislature in the state knows what's going on in the technology world. This slide here kind of gives you an overview of who our eligible DIR customers are. That includes Texas state agencies and institutions of higher education, includes local governments. There's over 6,200 plus eligible entities in the state who can procure through DIR for IT products and services. And then there's other organizations also who are eligible to procure through our contract offerings as well. That includes things like assistance organizations as defined by the Comptroller's Office, ERCOT, LCRA, private schools, other municipalities, and also public entities outside of Texas. We've got a large number of state agencies, local governments, school districts, and institutions of higher ed who, through an agreement with DIR, are able to procure products and services through our cooperative contract offerings. So let's go a little bit deeper into our shared technology services. And again, many of your agencies are utilizing our shared technology services offerings, and these do require an agreement with DIR. So our eligible customers include state agencies, local governments, K through 12 public education institutions, and also institutions of higher education. And we've put in place, the multi-sourcing services integrator. That vendor is Capgemini, who kind of acts as the overall program manager of our shared technology services for the vendors and the services offered through our shared technology services model. And those specifically include services like our data center services, including a wide variety of services that you see listed here. It includes us being responsible for the texas.gov portal. So state constituents, including all of us on this call today, are able to go out and do business with the state of Texas. It also includes offering managed security services, and then of course, offering the open data portal as well. So let's go a little bit further into our data center services offerings. And we've got several vendors that we've negotiated contracts with who provide services for data center services offerings. SIAC is the vendor charged with keeping the data center secure. That's their main function of their agreement with DIR and with the state of Texas, just making sure that the data center is secure. Deloitte is the vendor who offers technology services, solution services through our contract offerings. Deloitte also handles things like application maintenance and development for eligible entities for the state as well. Atos is the vendor who handles our private cloud services offerings for our eligible customers. Rackspace handles the public cloud manager services that are offered through our shared technology services offerings. And that includes AWS, Azure, and Google, also email and Office 365, as well as other service offerings too. Atos is the vendor who handles mainframe services for our customers who utilize mainframes and making sure that those mainframe services are available for their entities. And also Xerox is the vendor who handles the print mail functions and services through our shared technology services offerings as well. Texas.gov, there's actually two vendors who handle that part of the shared technology services offerings. Deloitte basically handles the application and maintenance of the applications that are available through Texas.gov. So if you go on Texas.gov to say renew your auto registration, as you're clicking through the services that you need to purchase through Texas.gov, Deloitte is the part who handles all of the applications and the maintenance of that. But when you go to order the services that you just selected and you're ready to put in your credit card and check out, that part is handled by Texas NIC or Texas NIC. And they're charged with payment processing on Texas.gov and making sure that payment is compliant. And then making sure that it's also appropriated to the right accounting system through the Comptroller's Office. AT&T is the vendor through Shared Technology Services who handles our managed security services for our customers. And they offer a wide variety of managed security services, including, security monitoring and device management, also incident responses and compliance and risk. One example of how our customers have utilized managed security services is that actually every single county in the state of Texas utilized our managed security services to ensure that the election system was secure before election season ramped up a couple of years ago. And of course, doing that follow-up work and making sure that now we're in election season again, making sure that those election systems are secure. The Texas Open Data Portal is also a DIR offering through our shared technology services. And the Open Data Portal vendor is Socrata, and they are responsible for the official state repository of publicly available electronic data. So there's many different categories out on the Open Data Portal where our eligible customers can go post information for the public, make that data available. And one of the benefits is that can really cut down on your public information requests through your agencies. And then we manage that data for you. You don't have to manage that data yourself. And for example, under the business and economy section, we here at DIR post our cooperative contract sales data from FY10 all the way up to the current date. So you can actually go out and see who's purchased what on our cooperative contracts for the last 11 fiscal years. So that's an example of how the Open Data Portal benefits the state of Texas and our customers as well. And if you'd like to see more of our shared technology services offerings, we've included on this slide the links to our YouTube videos that are out on YouTube. So you can go out and see short videos about these programs that are available to our customers. And then we've also included the link to the main YouTube channel that DIR has, and you can go, there's other videos posted out there for, say, statements of work or the exemption process. There's other programs available on that DIR channel as well. A little bit about telecom. Again, we've covered a couple of things about that already, but we're responsible for the telecom, for the Capitol Complex telephone system, as well as the Capitol building itself. Also, our Texan contracts, Texas Agency Network, offer things like voice, including local and long distance services for our customers, and also data offerings, and that includes internet services as well. And then there's other telecom services that are available through our telecom offerings as well. Those include things like wireless services and conferencing services, and then other managed services as well. Zoom that we're using here today is a good example of that, of services and products and services that are available through our telecom offerings as well. So that kind of gives you an overview of our shared technology services offerings. Let's talk a little bit now about our cooperative contracts. This is where you can do it yourself and go out and order your hardware and software products. There's technology training contracts out there that include instructor-led training as well. There's technology services like security services contracts. This includes also our staffing and our DBITS contracts, our bulk purchase initiatives, and then here in a little bit, Mary's going to go over in depth the statement of work and the exemption review process as well. So what are the benefits of utilizing DIR's cooperative contracts? Well, they create savings. We've leveraged, the state of Texas buying power to negotiate the best rates and discounts that we can with our vendors who propose products and services to us. Also, so we're containing best value in our solicitations and our negotiations and offerings. And then, of course, it does give us the opportunity to initiate bulk purchase initiatives from time to time on certain hardware and software, and sometimes software and security products together, but these are only for a specified period of time. So if we know that, say, the comptroller's office needs to buy 500 new computers, and we know that HHSC needs to buy 1,000 new computers, we can take that information back to our computer vendors and say, okay, we've identified a bulk purchase initiative. We want to negotiate a bulk purchase initiative with our computer vendors, but it's only going to be for a specified period of time, say, for example, 6 months or 9 months, whatever we negotiate with those vendors. We'll talk a little bit more about our current bulk purchasing initiatives here in a minute. So it also streamlines the purchasing process because we've done that heavy lifting for you. We've negotiated the master contracts and put those in place for you, our customers, to utilize. So it reduces the purchase and contract cycle time. And it also reduces duplicate efforts because you go directly to our DIR vendors to order your IT products and services. Then, of course, it also gives you, our customers, to do access with our hub vendors, whether they're a prime contract holder or a reseller. That is available for your agency to get that credit for that hub spending. And it also benefits the vendors because it simplifies the sales process for them. They report to us on a monthly basis what they sell on their DIR contracts and who they sold it to and at what price and at what discount, if they used any resellers or subcontractors in the process. And it also gives them access to do business with public entities like state government, local government, school districts, and so on and so forth. And last year, our cooperative contracts generated approximately $2.58 billion in sales. We're currently finalizing our FY21 data and hope to have that available. But in FY20, you can see here that state agencies made up about a little over 23% of the spending of that $2.58 billion. And local governments and K through 12 made up over 55 or 60% of the eligible spending. Higher ed made up 14.5%, and then assistance organizations and out-of-state entities made up a little bit over 2.6%. There's simply a larger number of local governments and K through 12s in the state of Texas who have the ability to procure through DIR. So of that 2.58 billion, that kind of funnels down into generating $357 million in savings for the state of Texas, for you, our customers, and for the constituents for the state of Texas. And an interesting note here is that of that 2.58 billion in spending, about 32% of it was done through our hub vendors. So congratulations and great job on utilizing our hub vendors as you make your procurements through DIR. This slide here, I'm not going to go through every single category, but it kind of gives you a very high-level overview of some of the products that are available through our cooperative contract offerings. It's not an all-inclusive list, but it's designed to give you a pretty good overview of the type of IT products that are available through the vendors that we've negotiated our cooperative contracts with, where you can go and order equipment directly through those vendors. Also, services available through our cooperative contracts as well. And again, we'll share this slide deck with everybody, so I'm not going to go through every single category, but again, this kind of gives you just a general overview of the types of services that are available through our cooperative contract vendors as well. Our staffing services, again, part of DIR's contract offerings. If you need some IT work done at your agencies and maybe you don't have somebody on staff to do that, you can contract with one of our vendors who hold a staffing services agreement with DIR to bring somebody in to do that work for you for, say, a period of 6 months or a year, whatever you need to negotiate with that vendor. One of the newer ones we've included is internships. We're working in conjunction with Austin Community College, who can then work in conjunction with other institutions of higher education to offer internships through our staffing services contracts now. Also includes our DBITS initiative, or a DBITS set of contracts as well. And we're just now in the place of refreshing this RFO and are getting ready to award new DBITS contracts here in the very near future. So these are service-based contracts for your entities to utilize for a wide variety of service-based type projects that you need to do for your agencies. These work off a statement of work rather than an itemized price list that you might see for a product you need to order. So the DBITS contracts aren't to be used for things like hardware and software purchases. There's other contracts for that. These are strictly service-based type functions or more project-based that work off a statement of work. You can see there's a wide variety of categories available for you to utilize for your institutions as well. A little bit more in depth on our bulk purchase agreements. Again, these are what we call our Kmart Blue Light Specials. For those of you who remember Kmart, and yes, I'm one of them. Again, these are products that are offered at yet deeper discounts because we know that a bulk purchase need exists in 2 or more customers. Right now, we've got bulk purchase initiative agreements in place with Apple and Dell for hardware, including computers. We've also got one in place for Adobe for software offerings. So if any of your agencies right now are needing any of these products, we encourage you to go out and check the bulk purchase page on the DIR website and utilize that bulk purchase agreement for your products that you're needing and that are available through those bulk purchase initiatives. You can buy one computer or you can buy 500 computers on the bulk purchase agreements because the purchasing thresholds don't apply in the bulk purchase agreements. So that's one of the benefits of checking for a bulk purchase agreement if you're needing to make a large purchase. And if you don't see one out there, let us know if you are needing to make a bulk purchase on an item, and we can see what we can do about negotiating a bulk purchase agreement as well. We've included the link. Yes.
I'm sorry. I was going to include the link, but also somebody had asked the question, and I did answer it in the Q&A box, but also whenever bulk purchase agreements, whenever we're introducing a new one, or we periodically send reminders about them, there are IT sourcing newsletter. So we'll talk about the IT sourcing newsletter towards the end, but just wanted to point that out, that's how, check this page. Here's the link, check the page, but also, consider subscribing to the IT sourcing newsletter to get that information.
Excellent. Thank you, Mary. And another question, yes, we are going to make this presentation available. So we will be sure to share this when we are done. Okay, you will see certain items that are common elements in our cooperative contract documents. So as you're looking at a DIR page, you will see the actual contract document that we have with that vendor. It'll include any exceptions that were negotiated during the time of negotiations as well. You'll see the Appendix A, standard terms and conditions. You will see the Appendix B, hub subcontracting plan, and a reminder that vendors can update that hub form at any time during the life of their DIR contracts. You will also see the Appendix C pricing index. That lists the brands and the percentages available on those items that are available on that vendor's DIR contract. However, if it's a service-based contract, like our DBITS contracts or our managed services and user IT outsourcing, you will see a statement of work instead of the pricing index. So the Appendix C will either be a pricing index or a statement of work. You will also see other appendices attached as needed. So there might be service agreements or master lease agreements, or there may be an additional statement of work if it's required within the scope of that contract. Typically, you'll see that maybe in security products and related services. So you'll see a price list and a statement of work attached. You'll also see any amendments that have been done to that contract as well as the advertised request for offer that was used to advertise to negotiate that contract for. So use that contract page as your resource to download anything that you might need for your procurement file as you're utilizing our contracts. A couple of things to remember is that there is survivability written into our DIR contracts. So if you need to do an agreement with a DIR vendor that has a 1-year initial term with 3 one-year renewal options on it, you can place your purchase order with that vendor as long as you do it before the DIR contract expires. So survivability will allow you to play out your order with that vendor, even if their DIR contract expires. That vendor is required to keep reporting to us on their expired DIR contract, because we might be over here trying to negotiate a new contract with that vendor, but things may be different under that new contract. The other issue is maybe that vendor won't get a replacement contract. So any number of things could happen. Also, be aware of any areas where the vendor might seek to vary from the DIR terms. We encourage our customers to negotiate further terms and conditions with our vendors as long as they don't diminish or conflict with the DIR contract terms. So if you've got CJIS requirements or HIPAA requirements, or you need additional insurance, it's okay to do that with our vendors. So as long as they don't diminish or conflict with DIR contract terms. And remember that the contract terms of our contracts have priority over almost all other vendor documents. There are some exceptions for third-party license agreements. So if you're being asked to sign a document by a vendor and you're not sure if you should sign it or not, Give your contract manager a call here at DIR. We can give you some clarification on whether you should sign that or not, because vendors should have provided all of their contract documents to us when we were negotiating and routing that contract for approval. So just let us know if you have any questions on those, and we'll be glad to answer them for you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Vickery to talk about searching on the new DIR website.
Thank you, Tom. So as you all probably know by now, as of September 1st, we launched a new website. Hopefully it's, y'all are having good feedback about it, where the intent was to help make it a more user-friendly, a better user experience, especially for our people in procurement, to make it easier. So anyway, this is just a quick little snapshot of the website. There, some of the features I'm going to try to do a quick high-level overview on. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So up at the top, that like with our other website, there was that black bar that always ran static. This information that's covered here, IT solutions, policy guidance, the little sign in, that is all listed. You know, those will be on every page whenever you're going through the website. Under IT solutions and services, you click on the next page, Tom. If you were to select that, there's a couple of different ways, things you can view from this page. You'll see, for example, categories. So if you want to, you know, look at certain technology categories such as ITSAC or cloud services, these will take you to some general information and possibly links to various contracts. Also, you'll see, in addition to categories, there's program areas. If you were to select that and go ahead and go to the next slide, and ta-da, this kind of discusses the different program areas. So for example, up at the top left, we got cooperative contracts or shared technology services. Somebody had asked about, you know, the policy and planning. Here's a link to, you know, planning and guidance where you could get some additional information. Also on the right-hand side, you'll see links such as buying through DIR, selling through DIR, and searching contracts. And if you have a vendor that ever calls you and says, hey, what do I need, you know, what do I need to do to get you to let me, to sell me, for me to be able to sell you IT products or services? You go, do you have a contract with DIR? And they're like, what's a DIR? Then you can tell them to go to this website and they'll see that information. Okay, we can go to the next page. So one of the other things that's available is from here at the top of the screen, you can click on that IMA and you can see that there's certain landing pages for certain types of people that would be using our, coming to our website. For example, state agencies. There's different information, you know, for local governments, colleges, K through 12. And there's also like a vendor page. And then like for the IRMs, you know, our information resource managers and the information security officers. So there's different pages depending upon what your needs are. So for procurement, you're mostly going to be looking at those over on the left side there. Okay, we can go ahead and go to the next page. So we're going to do a search, and if you'll notice, again, this is just kind of a focused in of that first page. You have two options, either all pages and content or contracts and vendors. So if you're looking for something related to a co-op contract, go ahead and select that tab, contracts and vendors. And you'll see here it has a search by. You can select something there, or you can just start typing. One of the cool things is as you start typing something, it'll give you some auto suggestions, you know, just in case that might be what you're looking for. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So if we were to do under that field of search by, we could either select all, by product or service, contract number, commodity code, and vendor. So on our search demonstration, we're actually going to be doing product and service. You would just select that, and then you would go in and type in your information. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we selected product and services, and for this example, we're doing cabling services. So you would just begin typing in cabling services and then hit search. So there's all kinds of stuff that goes on once you get to this point. Again, we're looking under contract and vendor results. In this particular page, we selected contracts. You'll see that there's all results, contracts, and vendors. We selected contracts. And this is showing all results, for products or services under the category of cabling services. If you wanted to down select even further, especially on some of these where you get, a large number, you can go in and further refine by different filters, such as categories, brands, vendor, hub types, and commodity codes. So go ahead and go to the next page, and this is just an example. If you were to select categories, it's going to select from the available categories that are listed for those 29 contracts that we pulled up. And so in this case, I'm like, let's make it a little bit easier and just select the cabling services. You would just select that, and then it would populate, all that had the cabling services. You can go ahead and go to the next screen. If we were to have selected that tab up at the top for brands, again, this is brands. This is like further, going down, refining your search, where it's showing the brands that are available for cabling services contracts. Okay. And I did not pull the tab for hub, but it's basically you're looking at, it'll say hub or non-hub for that one. Go ahead and go to the next one. And here it's the NIGP code. So, and again, this is just a small screenshot. Some of these are very, very long, but again, this is an opportunity if you wanted to maybe go in and down select further. Okay, so here we go. So, we kind of went over some of these different things. So this option right now is disabled. You may occasionally see expired contracts, but for now, that's a disabled feature. So when you get your list, yes, this one says 27. We did a couple of new contracts were awarded between screen prints here, that you would click on download results. And so when you do that, that's going to pull up the next page, please, a screen, something that looks like this. And from here, you'll see, all the relevant information, the vendor name, the DIR contract number. C, that expands super big if you go and open it. But anyway, it'll show, different information, including, for example, the vendor's hub type, their contact information. And someone asked about resellers. There's a couple of ways to look at pull resellers. So in this example, since we downloaded all contracts, there is, you'll notice here, it's showing all the resellers for the Electrolink contract. And so, you'll see them all listed over here, beginning in column K, and it even displays their hub type. And again, as we mentioned, as a state agency, if you're making the purchase for, looking to, do a hub, increase your hub, this is a great opportunity, because when you're the customer that's making the purchase with the hub vendor, therefore you're getting that hub credit, that hub spend. Okay, we can go to the next slide.
Okay, Mary, before you go into exemptions,
Sure.
Let's take a little bit here and just kind of cover some questions. Jamie's asking, do DIR contracts cover VPAT accessibility requirements? And to answer your question, Jamie, yes, we do that in a couple of ways, in that we put the VPAT request in our solicitation documents. So vendors, when they respond to our solicitations, need to provide accessibility or VPAT documentation to us And then our team reviews that as part of the evaluation criteria as we are evaluating contracts. So we do ask for that in our solicitation documents and the supporting documentation from the vendors who are providing products to us under that scope of the RFO. And I believe we also have wording in our either contract documents or in our Appendix A terms and conditions where VPAT needs to be addressed. If you're utilizing software, if you're doing services like web development, things like that, you've got to make those services and products available to the hearing and sight impaired. So yes, we do cover that, the VPAT accessibility issue in a couple of different ways through DIR.
Yes, and you can refer to Appendix A, Standard Terms and Conditions, where you'll find some information. And then also there is, like on that one page I was showing you, it showed EIR accessibility. There's some more information available through the website too. But you're correct that we do put that in, to make the make the vendors aware of those requirements, and it certainly does not hurt if you reinforce it, with if there's a specific thing that you're wanting to make sure that they are, being compliant with the accessibility standards.
Okay, and then we did have another question. How can we print resellers for contracts? Mary walked through just one example there. If you're looking for resellers within a scope of a certain group of contracts, you can see that on the printout. And then if we have a couple of minutes at the end, if you go to, say, the Dell contract or the Panasonic contract, and if you go to that contract homepage, if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to see a little link that says resellers. And if you click on that resellers link, when you're on that contract homepage, you will see the list of resellers that is available there. There's also a way right there on that page to export that or download that list of resellers for that certain contract that you're looking at. So there's a couple of different ways to get to that list of resellers. And then also the next question is there a quantity required for the bulk purchases? No. If you're needing to use the bulk purchases, you can order one item or you can order 2,500 items. The thresholds and minimum and maximums don't apply in our bulk purchase initiatives. And then
last question, do we have the ability to view expired contracts? In some cases, you may see them, but for now, they have disabled that feature where you can go in and request to specifically display expired contracts. So if you have a need to see it, if you're needing something like, oh, we forgot to include this in our file, you can't find it, just reach out to one of the DIR contract managers and we can help look it up for you. And like I said, right now it's a feature that's been disabled.
Okay, Mary, I'll turn it back over to you for exemptions.
Okay. So let's talk exemptions. So as a state agency, you are aware that you are required to purchase your IT commodity products and services through DIR. But there are instances where you may need to purchase outside of us. And before you do so, you would need to submit an exemption request. There's a few different exemption types that we have. For example, we have what we call blanket exemptions, to where this is something, and we'll show them in a minute here, but where we are not going to offer it on contract in the immediate future, or there's other reasons. One-time exemptions, that's for an agency to go in and submit when they have a need to make a procurement. Yes, you may ask for it over and over again, but it's for that particular procurement. That's kind of why it's called one time. And then there's another exemption type where you can get certification from DIR to purchase actually through a local co-op. And while we are speaking primarily about cooperative contract exemptions, There are other exemptions that you as a state agency may also need to obtain from other divisions within DIR. For example, data center services, there's exemption requests through telecom, as well as a texas.gov exemption. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So again, we do have a page, exemption requests for state agencies. And this page provides information regarding the different types of exemptions that are included. You can go to the next slide. Here's some of the blanket exemptions that I mentioned earlier. So like if you have an emergency procurement, to where you're not going to have time to follow the DIR procurement process, you would follow the comptroller's requirements, but you could get a blanket exemption for that. Another example is WorkQuest. Since they're considered a set aside, there are certain commodity codes, where WorkQuest does offer certain items that you could use that blanket exemption to make that procurement. And as you can see, there's some other ones here as well. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. The other two kind of big ones to me is the minimum threshold procurements. And this has recently been increased. So, so state agencies are exempt as long as your procurement does not exceed $5,000. So if you're needing to make a purchase for something $5,000 or less, and you cannot find it through DIR, you can use the blanket exemption instead of submitting a one-time exemption. So yay, speeds up your process. And then also there's a maximum threshold procurement. So if an agency is entering into a contract where the initial term will exceed $10 million, you cannot enter into a DIR cooperative contract. You cannot enter in through one of our contracts. So, you are granted an exemption, for that. And we have over here like consider bulk purchase instead. So as Tom had mentioned earlier, if we have, if we know there's a need between two or more customers, for an item that it may cost you more than the 10 million, then it's something that we might be able to look at through, for bulk purchase. Okay. Okay, so this is leading up to the question, can an exemption be granted regarding cost? It just depends. Some of the things to keep in mind regarding cost is, one, you are able to negotiate with a vendor, to obtain lower price, and also best value. So a lot of times if it's solely on cost, we may question you, to make sure that you have not, tried negotiating with the vendor, regarding that cost. There are times to where it's a substantial difference, and yeah, that's not an issue, but you would have to have some good supporting documentation for cost. There are other reasons you may need it. It's not available through DIR contract. It could be some proprietary restrictions, where maybe it's something that's compatible with your existing infrastructure, existing technology infrastructure there, where it may be legacy, or it may be something that we don't offer through our contracts anymore. And there's just other circumstances, or requirements that may work around it. One thing that's key to remember whenever you're submitting your exemptions, is provide us with documentation. What is it? Why are you wanting this exemption? Provide us sufficient information. Think of it as like, this is what you're going to have in your procurement file. So if somebody comes and does an audit of your file later, are they going to see that, that justification? That's what we're wanting to look at too. We want to see, we're not going to say, I want an exemption. Oh, sure, here you go. We want to know why. Go ahead and go on the next slide. Keep in mind that standard processing time for an exemption is 15 business days from date of receipt. And you can request an expedited exemption request. You would need to include a statement from your agency head or his or her designee describing the reason for the expedited request. And we do look at that. So even though you might check expedite, we do confirm that there is documentation there, and if it's sufficient. So we do take expedite serious, and we ask that respect back, I guess. Okay, so we'll carry on. So how do you? Okay, very good. We're getting to that, Ramona. So how do you get to the exemption forms? And as I mentioned earlier, the top bar that runs static throughout all of our pages. So you would select the sign-in box, and it's going to take you to a landing portal. And I think we have a kind of a quick screenshot of it. I'm not sure. You want to go to the next slide? Yeah, so you'll see where it says my DIR application portals, and you would scroll down until you see your see the one for exemption request. And so in this example, you'll see where it has the exemption portal request, state agencies. So you would select that. From here, what you would do is put in your username and your password and log in. If you don't have a login yet, you would click on that down there on the right where it says need a login, select that, and then you can fill out the form. It's not an automated process, so you would fill out the form and hit submit. Our IT services group will receive that email, and they will work your request. It can take them up to 4 business hours, so keep that in mind. So if you turn in a request at 4:30 on a Thursday afternoon, it may be Friday, morning before you receive a response. So, and if you ever have any issues with the exemption portal, there's also that need help, and you can, let them know if you're, just send an email, let them know what kind of issues you might be having. One thing I wanted to say real quick, like here, is we are trying to improve on the sign-on here. So we're trying to be positive that, so in the near future, we are going to be making some changes to where you can have one sign-on for for the different categories you may have, as far as if you have, right now, you may have 2 different logins for the ITSAC portal and the exemption form. Some of you may also have the SOW portal app, which is a different login. And we are working to get those consolidated where we're calling it a community login. So be on the lookout for notices regarding that. We're excited, and I know that's going to make you guys, your life easier too. Okay. So as we mentioned about the 15 business days to review, once you submit that request, you'll get an email. If you don't get an email, it's just that is automated. Let us know, because it could be you got hung up in limbo. Doesn't happen too often, but every now and then. But you will receive a confirmation email, that provides you with that waiver number, and that, so if you need to reach out to DIR, you have that information. And it's important to note that DIR can approve exemptions, or we can deny exemptions. There are instances also where we may ask the requester to withdraw an exemption. And a typical example of that, you may have submitted an exemption for $4,900. So we may ask you to withdraw your one-time exemption and just to print out the blanket exemption for, minimum threshold 5,000 or less. And it's also important to remember agencies should wait for DIR to respond to your exemption request before proceeding with the procurement. There may be additional information. Some of you are data center services, DCS customers. we may have to request you to include some additional RFO language for your solicitation. So it's really important to make sure you get the response from us before you do issue, do anything with your procurement. Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Mary, we do have a question posed about the minimum threshold. And again, please put your questions in the Q&A box instead of the chat. But the question is, with the minimum threshold procurement exemption, if I am purchasing various brands of toners and the cost is well under $5,000, can I use this exemption to purchase them all via a hub vendor, even if the toners can be found on a DIR contract?
If, you should always go to DIR first, to a DIR vendor first. If that option is not available, you're still going to need to document, why, you did the exemption and you did not purchase through DIR. Does that make sense? So even though you may, yeah. And that's another thing too. I'm just thinking about Ramona. Ramona just brought up, she'd be interested to know what NIGP code. Toners and things like that, there is a blanket exemption for that as well, to where you may not even need to be, seek an exemption. Well, I'll look that up, and I'm gonna put that on look up and get back with you before this is over. Okay. Sorry, I'll try to pick up the pace now. So anyway, as if you see something, if here's a link to a suggestion form, if there's something out there on contract or that you're not seeing on contract, you're like, why doesn't DIR sell this? Drop us a line. We'd like to know. It could be something that we would, maybe we haven't thought about. It could be emerging technology, something new. So let us know. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, government code does require state agencies to purchase those technology products and services through DIR cooperative contracts. And as always, if you can't find something, let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you see if it's not something we don't have. And also, whenever part of with the exemption review, we take that data and we do look at it to see what are our customers looking for exemptions for. Is this something that there could be potential need amongst other customers, or is it something very niche to your particular agency's missions? And we also provide a link there, which was a exemption training we did about a year ago. Okay. Purchasing thresholds. So this has changed just a little, and I'll try to speak a little faster. So for DIR, purchases up to $50,000, an agency, you may directly award a contract, PO, to a DIR cooperative contractor, vendor, or reseller. Anything that's over $50,000 but not exceeding $1 million, you would need to submit a request for pricing to at least 3 DIR vendors or resellers in the applicable category. And it's just very important to note applicable category. So if you were doing a search and you came back with a very broad list, if you were trying to do a search for, we'll just say, a hardware for a laptop, you would not be soliciting a DBITS vendor or a IT staffing contract, for that, for a computer. So, make sure that the vendors that you have selected and you are soliciting are in the applicable category. Okay. So anything over $1 million, less than $5 million, you would need the same thing. You would need to submit pricing to at least 6 DIR vendors or resellers. So here's excuse me, here's where it comes in new. Anything over $5 million, but not exceeding $10 million, state agencies now have the option to either utilize the DIR cooperative contracts or another comptroller procurement method. If you do use a vendor in this category of over 5 but less than 10, you would need to submit pricing requests to at least 6 vendors or resellers in the applicable category. And as we kind of mentioned before, anything over 10 million, a state agency may not enter into a contract through a DIR cooperative contract. Okay. And of course, customer exceptions, these things that we're talking about only applies to state agencies. Should not be any of these other organizations with us today. Statement of work review. So as a state agency, through Texas Government Code 2157 and further defined in Texas Administrative Code 212, state agencies are required to submit statements of work to DIR for approval prior to solicitation and then also prior to awarding the contract. And this is for certain services that are over $50,000. Services would be, for example, deliverable space IT services, DBITs, end-user IT outsourcing and managed services, comprehensive web. For the most part, it does not include products. There can be certain complex services, where the overall project solution does include hardware or software that, DIR, should look at. And, if that's fine, and if you're ever in doubt, submit it through the portal. We'll let you know. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Statement of work reviews. We don't review support agreements or maintenance agreements or any hardware or software only contracts. Any of those agreements are typically attached as an appendix to the contract. Okay. We do have templates. There is a statement of work webpage where you can find some of the templates that are, we have one that's that includes both the waterfall and agile project methodologies. There's one that's set up for IT staffing for statements of work. Of course, DBIT, CompWeb, and end-user IT, for example, we do have templates, that are kind of relative to those. Okay. So whenever a statement of work is submitted, we review the statement of work to ensure that the scope is appropriate for the DIR contract selected. So we do look at those vendors and contracts that you intend to solicit. So whenever you are submitting in the portal, we're looking at what you're ready to send out, and this is who you plan on sending it out to. We look at that period of performance, the term of the contract. We review the deliverables, the acceptance criteria, any reporting requirements. Is there, security or confidentiality items that perhaps need to be addressed? Accessibility, as the question was asked earlier, especially on a statement of work, it's good to, yes, it's in those standards, in the standard terms and conditions, but it's good to go ahead and, it does not hurt to repeat it here, within your requirements. So, what the expectation is. Okay. So, statement of work submission process. Again, as I mentioned, there's kind of two steps. There's the draft submission and then the final submission. You would submit the draft to DIR. We would review it, the information. If we have questions, need for you to make some revisions, we will work with you. And then once we got everything all lined out, then we'll approve the statement of work. Then once at that point, then you would be going out and soliciting the approved vendors. You get your responses back, you negotiate, and you come up with the final, the final awarded vendor or vendors that you're going to award to. You would, both the agency and the, vendor, successful respondent, would execute the final statement of work. At that point, then you would submit that final statement of work to DIR for review. We would review it. We will approve it unless we have some clarifications we need. Once DIR signs it, we return it to the agency. And at that point, then you would go in and issue the PO, or your notice to proceed to the selected vendor. Okay. And just as a reminder, SOW process timelines. Draft statement of work review is 30 business days. And that's business days, not calendar days. So keep that in mind when planning out a procurement. We try to get them out faster, but there are times that, it's first in, first out as far as, the order that we review them. You do have the option of requesting an expedited draft review. And it's listed similar to TAC 212 for exemptions. You would need to submit a letter or statement from your agency head or his or her designee indicating the need for it to be an expedited review. In that case, it'd be 3 business days. All final SOW reviews are 3 business days. Okay. Any amendments? So if we have reviewed and approved a final statement of work, any amendments or change orders that are executed against that statement of work would need to be submitted to DIR for approval. And this includes any changes to the scope, regardless of cost. Amendments are submitted through the SOW portal with reference back to the original statement of work. And it kind of goes through the same process. We review it as a draft. We say it's good, get it signed, resubmit it, and then send it. Okay. It's important to note, and this is in Government Code 2157.0685. You can check me on that. Agencies must post all executed statements of work on their website, and a statement of work is not valid and a vendor cannot be paid until DIR signs the final SOW. And we do not sign retroactively. Okay.
All right, so very briefly and on a very high level, let's talk about MERPs. And MERPs, Major Information Resources Projects, are IT projects with a contract value expected to exceed $10 million. These are very high profile, high dollar projects and are kind of one of those that fall into a lot of people's radars when they are occurring because of their contract value. So Government Code 2054.003 kind of defines MERPs as information resources technologies, and major information resources projects. The QAT, the quality assurance team, is involved in the development of MERP projects. And then phases in the development of a MERP include planning, system analysis and requirements, systems design, development, integration and testing, implementation, and operations and maintenance. And MERPs kind of act this way. So prior to starting your vendor negotiations, your state agency does need to submit to the QAT a draft copy of any contract containing the proposed terms, your draft contract, your terms and conditions, your statements of work, things like that. Then the QAT reviews that information and then comes back with any questions or needing further clarification on issues, things like that. Then you would respond back to the QAT. Then you go out and do your vendor negotiations, and then upon concluding your vendor negotiations, your agency then submits the final copy of that agreement to the QAT for review. And a couple of reminders is that prior to amending the contract by 10% or more of the contract value or the schedule, your agency does need to first notify the QAT, but you also need to then notify the higher ups like the governor's office, the lieutenant governor, speaker of the house, and so on and so forth, as noted here. So just keep in mind that these are very high profile, high dollar IT related projects that your agency may be involved in or doing at some point. And if you need more information, we've included the link to the DIR webpage. It's under the project delivery, and you can get more information about MERPs on our site.
There, had to get unmuted. Okay, so back with the 86th legislative session, there was a bill passed that required DIR in consultation with the Texas Cybersecurity Council to certify at least 5 cybersecurity training programs. And these trainings are for state and local employees, institutions of higher ed, school districts, and in certain cases, state contractors. Excuse me, just a moment. This law went into effect June 14th, 2019. And so it affects contracts that were awarded or renewed, after or as of June 14th. And for state contractors, if a contractor has access to a state computer system or a database, they must complete a certified training program, and they must provide you with that documentation. And they must do it on an annual basis. So for every time, throughout that contract, as you're renewing, that's going to be one of those requirements that you'll need to have. And again, that's for contractors that have access to a state computer system or database. There's a link here for more information regarding the cybersecurity training and reporting requirements. Okay.
All right, and finally, in our last segment here, we're going to talk a little bit about determining the appropriate IT procurement method. So a couple of things to remember: classification codes with that AIS component are noted with an asterisk in the NIGP commodity code book on the comptroller site. So if you see that asterisk by a commodity code or a category, that's your clue that it's probably going to be an IT related purchase. And those with that AIS designation are required to use our DIR contracts first. Any questions about any classification codes with that AIS designation? If you have any questions about them, you can direct those either to us or to the comptroller's office, and we can take a look at your questions. Maybe there are some that need an asterisk, maybe there are some that are asterisk that shouldn't be. We can discuss that. So you've got options when it comes to your IT procurements. You can try and do it yourself through our cooperative contracts, and that's certainly a very viable avenue. Or you can maybe look at our shared technology services where we do it for you. A couple of things to remember is that our cooperative contracts, no agreement is needed with DIR, and you then manage the procurement and the contract with that DIR vendor. You can also negotiate for right-sized solutions under the cooperative contract vendors for your IT products and service needs. You then maintain the procurement and the contract records, and that includes a copy of the DIR master contract and all supporting documentation for your files. And then you then would manage any vendor performance issues during the term of that contract, which would also include reporting to the vendor performance tracking system on the comptroller site. But through our shared technology services, again, those do require an agreement with DIR, but we do it for you. So we are responsible then for the procurement and the contract documentation for that service that you are needing for your agency. Shared technology services kind of limited to one size fits most instead of you being able to right size it. These are kind of services that appeal to the masses and all of our eligible customers. And then we serve as the point of escalation for any vendor issues under our shared technology services. It's also important to maximize hub on your DIR contract usage as well. And we know that in a lot of our smaller agencies who are our customers, you might be the purchasing manager and the hub coordinator and the contract manager all in one role. It just kind of depends. So when it comes to hub, make sure that you have a copy of the most current HSP form in your procurement file. Again, vendors can update those at any point during the term of their DIR contract, so they can add or remove resellers or subcontractors at any time. It's important that your hub coordinator seek clarification on the HSP form so they can see what contractors will the vendor use that are on their HSP. That includes clarification on dollar amounts and percentages as well. Reminder that vendors, prime vendors, do need to submit a PAR report or a progress assessment report to you on a monthly basis. There is wording included in our Appendix A terms and conditions that makes that reporting requirement part of the contract. Make sure your hub coordinator then receives a copy of that PAR, because hub coordinators are required twice a year to report to the LBB what their hub spending is for any procurements that their agencies are doing. Reminder that any subcontractors not on the HSP will need to be added before they can be used. So if you're seeing a vendor is using a subcontractor that's not on their hub form, that vendor is not in compliance with their contract. They must bring that hub form up to date before work can begin. All of our contracts do have a hub goal. For other services, it's 26%. And for commodities, it's the 21.1%, which are the state guidelines for those services and commodities. If you ever have questions about the hub form or the hub program in general, feel free to reach out to our hub office. We've included the email address for you to utilize there as well. Excellent staff willing to answer any questions. Again, you can find that as the Appendix B under any contract document on the DIR website. If you don't see it there, reach out to us and we can see where that form might be. Maybe it's being updated at this point. It's not been uploaded yet, or maybe might be a new contract and it just hasn't been uploaded yet. So if you don't see the Appendix B hub subcontracting plan, let us know. We can track that down for you. There is wording in the Appendix A required for the PAR and reportings that vendors do need to be doing to you. And that is typically under Section 9 or Section 8. It just kind of depends on the scope of the contract. So if you are getting a PAR and you have a subcontractor identified that is not on the vendor's HSP, it's important to stop and do not pay that vendor or that reseller, because there is a major compliance issue here. Make sure, have that vendor reach out to us here at DIR, and they need to bring their hub subcontracting plan into compliance before any work can begin, or before you pay that vendor for their services that they are doing. So again, don't pay them until they bring their hub form into compliance if you see discrepancies. And finally, we leave you with some DIR resources. We encourage you to, there is information for vendors on the DIR webpage that can be found under the Selling Through DIR. So if you ask a vendor if they are a DIR contract holder and they say no, how do I get there? How do I get one? Refer them to the website under the Selling Through DIR function. They can read the process, how DIR considers vendors for our solicitations, and they can learn how to do business with DIR. They can also see the schedule of solicitation opportunities, which is our procurement schedule for the year that shows everything in the planning stage all the way out to what we've closed and we're currently evaluating and negotiating. So this may also help your agency as you're planning your procurements. A point to remember here is that we will soon be posting our FY22 procurement schedule out on the DIR website. So we've included the link here to our schedule of solicitation opportunities for you to go out and look at, and for vendors to go out and see as well, so they can respond to our solicitations when they are in the posting phase. There's all kinds of resources available to you. Look at that schedule of solicitation opportunities page. There's FAQs on our website, webinars that we do from time to time. As Mary had mentioned, templates in the request for technology form, products and services. Utilize the open data portal. Go out and see what others have bought on our DIR contracts. That kind of helps you do some market researching for things that you might be needing as well. Utilize your DIR contract manager. We're all intimately familiar with our contracts and how our processes work. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. And then, as Mary had mentioned earlier, we invite you to join our IT Sourcing Digest, our mailing list that goes weekly to our customers. It includes things like if there are any legislative issues that are going on in the IT world or with the state in general. There is information on what new contracts have been awarded, what new bulk purchase initiatives might be in place, what contracts have been amended or renewed or have terminated or expired. And the way you can find that is if you go out to the DIR webpage, scroll to the sign up for communications. And once you click on there, you will see the sign up for the IT Sourcing Digest. You can sign up there for that weekly digest that goes just to our customers. It's important to remember to use your work email address because personal email addresses or Yahoo, Gmail, things like that, we do not accept. We want to leave you with the final reminder that for the Texas Senate bill, and Mary, if you want to kind of take some information of this too, I'll work through it, but Texas Senate Bill 475 defined a need for a Texas Risk and Authorization Management Program, or TexRAMP. This ensures that cloud services are secure for state government, state agencies, institutions of higher ed, and public junior colleges. We are currently developing this program and hope to have the manual approved by the board today. We will see if that gets done. The go live date is January 1st. So procurements that you will be making that will include things like cloud services will need to have a level of approval, level 1, level 2, depending on the complexity of the data that is being included with that procurement. And this we're basing this kind of on the FedRAMP guidelines. And, if you're familiar with that, we're going to be implementing some of those guidelines as well. And we'll be posting more information to both our vendor community and our customer community who will be affected by this ruling in the next several weeks. So we invite you to keep an eye on the DIR webpage. As we've stated, sign up for that IT Sourcing Digest because we will be publishing information in there as well. And again, this is for a Senate bill that it's just designed to ensure that cloud service providers are providing secured services through cloud offerings. Did I leave anything out on that, Mary? Can you think of it?
No, I think you did good. And I was just I pulled up some draft information, and just that, with TexRAMP, it's considered a standardized approach, to the assessment and evaluation of cloud computing services. And so we're trying to ensure that, we have that consistently, throughout the state. And it is, will be the vendor's responsibility to, submit those certifications, and apply, to be certified.
Okay, thank you. And Patty, to your
more
question,
info's coming.
yes, keep an eye on the DIR website. And Patty, the part about signing up for the weekly digest, let me just go back to that area before we go on here. If you go to the DIR homepage and you scroll down, you will see a sign up for the sign up for communications. Once you click on that, you'll be taken to a list. And there's several different areas here you can sign up for, but that IT sourcing is the one that goes weekly to customers.
Okay. If I could just real quick, share my screen.
Sure. Let me stop sharing. Right, just a second. Okay, now you should be able to share.
Okay, so the question was around the toner, and then there was some other discussions around it. So there is a blanket exemption for office accessories and consumables, and these are the items that are listed on there, and that does include toner, ribbons, refurbished telephones, even. So that would be that's what you would use for that, not the under 5,000. So, and I think that's a good point to look at some of these, especially with what we call the expiring blanket exemptions. Make sure that, oh yeah, it's publication, but is what you're, does the NIGP code class and item match up to what's on this blanket exemption? because, you know, you have to have a match. So just, you know, be sure and keep that in mind.
Great, Ramona, I hope that answers your question there. And
I believe it did.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions? Excellent, thank you, Ramona. Any more questions? We've got about 5 minutes left. I don't know if this person is still online or not, but the question, the reseller spreadsheet does not show that they are DIR resellers on a certain contract. Yeah, actually it does. You can.
No, it doesn't. It's a glitch.
Okay. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you are correct. So I'm gonna mention it to our, you know, web folks to see if it's something that can be addressed, because I think how I'm understanding it is, for example, if you go to the Kyocera document solutions, and then, you know, here's the resellers, but when you download that list, which is probably not going to display for you guys, as I did a share, what it shows, let me see if I can get it pulled up here. Bear with me. It does show the resellers, their information, and my understanding, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is you're wanting to see where the prime vendor or a tie back to at least the contract number is listed on this reseller list, because this reseller list could be anything. So,
yeah, and that doesn't show a DIR contract number on it.
No. So I'm gonna. This was a good catch. So I'm gonna bring it up. I will see what we can, you know, find out if this is something that can be easily addressed, or if it's something that they may have to, you know, look further into. I would say as a workaround, you know, you could probably just make sure that, you know, save this, but go ahead and include which contract, you know, within your document, you know, if you were to do a print.
Okay. Just want to show one more thing here quickly. And if you have questions, again, go ahead and put them in. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Herschel Becker is our Chief Procurement Officer. Colleen Berkeley is our Director of Procurement Services. You've got Lynn in our Hub office and Iko in our Contract Management office. And Mary and I are on here as well. So again, if you have any questions as far as DIR or IT procurements or anything we can help you with, feel free to reach out to us. And we hope you found this a little bit helpful and a little intuitive today. And hopefully we got some of your questions answered. Question, let's see. How would you search for a cell phone booster, as the keyword search did not provide anything for me? Do
you know of
brands?
Yeah, I was gonna say a brand or a product name. WeBoost. Did you try doing a search by WeBoost? Also, I feel like we have some. Let me see. I've got a list here on my desk somewhere. I was wanting to. I say this might be something, you know, where this is a good example. If you can't find something, you could reach out to us and we could, you know, help search for it. I was just going to look at the different RFOs we have. I would think that it could fall under our miscellaneous IT contracts.
Looks like we may have it on 4497.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say there's probably some possibilities. If you'd like, we could do some searching and see.
And this is a perfect example of if you're searching for something and you can't find it, or you think we may not have it, reach out to us, because we might have some other avenues for you to search or find it somewhere for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. the WeBoost brand is listed under DIR-CPO-4497.
Okay.
So there's your possibility.
So contract 4497. You bet, Kathleen.
Yeah, and
Okay.
like I said, feel free to ask us, because I know Tom and I have kind of started, we keep a little notepad, OneNote section. I'm going to tell my secret here, because sometimes we get similar requests, and it's not something that, you know, may not be easy. Sometimes it's not easy to find, you know, maybe, you know, and it could be just our terminology, you know, is in how we're looking for it. But we're always happy to help see if it's something we do have.
Okay, so we are out of time. We want to thank you all for joining us today. Again, we hope you found it informative, intuitive. Reach out to us if you ever have any questions. We are more than happy to help you with hub things, contract things, procurement things, whatever you might need. So y'all have a great day. You're welcome, Susan. My pleasure. Let us know if you need anything further. Y'all have a great day, a great weekend, and happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.